But if we take him at face value, according to the various declarations that he has issued so far, he has stated that the United States is done with the post-World War II global order, that the new realities are the multipolar integrations, and that the United States intends to embrace the new reality. And so let's say that if we take him at face value, then that's a different deal than the traditional vested interests that are, entrenched in the U.S. ruling establishment. And so I do think that Trump takes multipolar integration seriously. So let's go back to January. In January, Marco Rubio had confirmation hearings during which he said that the post-World War II global order is more than obsolete. And he said that it's actually being weaponized against the United States. And so that on the same occasion, he did say that the United States intends to embrace multipolar integrations. Then we saw that Trump actually did begin to extricate the United States from the whole Project Ukraine, effectively and for real, declined to give them U.S. security guarantee. And as far as Iran is concerned, thus far, he has avoided going to war against Iran.
Right.
Then, after the absolutely devastating strikes on Iran, which were the best, most precise strikes ever conducted in the history of the Milky Way galaxy. But on the serious note, what he has done with those bombastic statements is he has actually removed the West's justification for war on Iran, because we are all about freedom and democracy, right? And imposing regime change in Iran and imposing the Shah doesn't exactly square with that. It's
right.
The way democracy works, right? At the point of gun, you tell them this is your new ruler and you shall obey them. So they needed a more digestible, more palatable pretext for war, and that was Iran's nuclear program. And so if Trump said that the nuclear program was just vaporized, it is no more, because these strikes were just so amazing and so precise and so fantastic. That means that he's removed the justifications. And then he gave statements saying that he's not seeking regime change, that it's messy, that he respects Iranians, that they are good tradesmen and good businessmen, and that they have plenty of oil, which kind of tells you what his thinking is, and that nuclear program doesn't have to be discussed anymore. So this week we were going to have continued negotiations between Iranians and the United States, but not about the nuclear program, but about other things. And then when Steve Witkoff last week gave an interview to ABC, I forget who, he said that not seeking further sanctions against Iran was actually a signal to the Chinese that the administration was ready to make deals, to negotiate deals in some kind of a constructive, more respectful manner than just being a global cop. So, based on all these points that kind of line up in the same direction, I do think that Trump is trying to steer the supertanker USA in the direction of multipolar integrations. Of course, in doing so, he's antagonizing exactly the wealthiest and the most powerful segment of the US society, because these are the vested interests that have benefited the most from the old order, from the rules-based global order, which is, the British free trade system, the banking cabal, and the military-industrial complex. And in that sense, I suppose you can try to understand why he's doing it in the manner that he's doing it, in a way where one day he says black, the next day he says red, then he says white, then he turns left, then he pivots right, then he says Iranians are awful, we're going to destroy them, and then he says, okay, let's let's negotiate, Iranians, please. I think he's trying to pull in the right direction. Whether he'll be successful or not, we'll see. But I think he's not doing himself any favors, because by making these statements, like we vaporized the nuclear program in Iran, that lie has short legs. Because had he said, we think we inflicted serious damage on it, but we need to send inspectors, we need to send investigators there to verify. So we're going to exert pressure on the Iranians to let our inspectors in to verify the damage. And then, under that pretext, you could continue negotiations with the Iranians. You could drag it out for a few weeks or a few months even. And then maybe you can contrive a more credible lie and say, yes, we didn't destroy everything, but we destroyed most of it. And we did find like so many kilos of 60% enriched uranium, and we obliged the Iranians to turn that over to us. Here it is. We disposed of it. Happy days are here again. And we can talk about oil and nuclear power plants and trade and all of these good things. By going with the bombastic lie that nobody bought, he's given himself no maneuvering space.
Yeah.
And now I think his whole construct depends on Netanyahu staying in power in Israel, because Netanyahu was the first one who bought into Trump's concept and said, yes, we did it. Thank you, Trump. Thank you, Mr. President. Like they had Israel plastered with all these portraits of Donald Trump and flags of the United States with the slogan, thank you, Mr. President. So Benjamin Netanyahu, who was in desperate need for a political boost, himself committed to this fiction. Well, now if he's overthrown, if he gets impeached and we get who knows what new government, Trump is maybe placed back to square one, and maybe the war against Israel goes beyond the 12 days and the hostilities renew, and there we're in a complete mess again.